Hello everyone, I am Be Better Gamer and welcome back, or welcome to my channel for the first time if this is your first time watching it, where I dedicate my time and my effort and my energy to doing Let's Plays of WWF No Mercy, WCW NWO Revenge, and Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, the A.K.A. developed wrestling games, the best wrestling games around in my opinion. And today, very special episode for me, at least, because I'm going to be doing the second part of my Intercontinental Championship path, trying to 100% all the different championship paths eventually, where I will be playing as Chris Jericho. Here you see, I always like to show that I play on the expert difficulty. And if this is your first time joining me, I like to talk about the historical context. Basically what was going on during the year, that No Mercy was most likely being developed. So I like to focus from November 99 to November 2000. And I mentioned this in my Chyna video. This was a year that was a breakout year for the IC title. All the people who held the IC title this year, with the exception of with Val Venus, never held the IC title before. Chris Jericho is probably the most notable of the group, not only because he was one of the more recent entrants to WWE along with Kurt Angle around that time, but he is the reigning, record holder for most title reigns as Intercontinental Champion. His name is probably most synonymous with the IC title in the modern era. Probably before him, it was Macho Man, even though Macho Man only held the title for over a year and he only held it once. Chris Jericho definitely shattered all expectations by coming to the WWE. Big fan favorite. I was a huge fan of Chris Jericho, but he had fans all over. It was definitely just a stepping stone, for the way it should be, the way it was meant to be. You wanted the IC title to kind of be that stepping stone to the world title, to bigger and better things. And the IC title was kind of there to get you ready for it. Things got a little muddy around this time because you had the European title floating around. Within a couple of years, you'd have the whole invasion angle play out. You'd have WCW's titles come in to WWE, and things got weird after that with the IC title. I don't think the IC title ever really recovered. There was a few glimmers here and there where, Randy Orton held it, Jeff Hardy held it, and they had kind of long reigns with it, but it never really, I feel like this was the year where it really stood out, the most, in terms of having such a dominant year where all eyes were on the IC title as much as they were on the world title. But nonetheless, Jericho would hold it a record 9 times. Unfortunately, that doesn't put him in the most combined days, of times holding it. Because even though he held it only those 9 times, his total overall time as champion was 318 days, which puts him at number 14. So actually, that's still pretty good. That's almost a year's worth of time for 9 years. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, if you think about it. Jeff Hardy has more combined days than him. Pretty much everyone that has more combined days than him has held it left. Macho Man, he held it only for 1 time, and he held it for 414 days. And Honky Tonk Man held it 1 time, and he held it for 454 days. So whatever, I don't know what's more important, times held or length of times held. I go back and forth on it. I think they're both pretty important, but still, 9-time Intercontinental Champion. And definitely when Jericho was holding the title, he was always involved in very exciting feuds, And the first feud that started us off was with his feud against Chyna. And I talked about it a bit in the episode with Chyna that I just, put out before this. Jericho had just come into the company in August of 99 and feuded with The Rock ever so briefly. Powerbombed Road Dogg, got him injured. But then he would answer Chyna's open call when Chyna became the first woman ever to become the IC champion. So Jericho comes out. He's like, I'm better than you. I'm the Ayatollah, Rockantola. Let's do this thing, baby. And their feud would get off. He would not be successful at Armageddon. No, I'm sorry, at Survivor Series against Chyna. He would lose that match cleanly to Chyna. But in the next pay-per-view at Armageddon, Jericho would win. He would... I'm just going to go through this kind of briefly because I already covered it in my Chyna episode. And then they would both become dual champion at one point, but WWE doesn't acknowledge that history as them being both title champions. So technically, that's still Jericho's first reign as champion because they just consider the title vacant. And then they had a match at Royal Rumble along with Hardcore Holly involved. It was a triple threat match to decide who was going to be the IC champion going forward. And Jericho comes out on top of that as well. Actually, the tights that I'm wearing right now, the outfit that I'm wearing right now is exactly what Jericho wore at the Royal Rumble. It was funny because I was going through his entrance attire, and one of the entrance attire shirts you can pick is the Jerichoholic shirt. And I'm like, why is the Jerichoholic shirt an entrance attire? He always came out with like that very colorful shirt. And then lo and behold, when I'm watching Royal Rumble, he comes out in exactly this attire. And I'm like, oh, great, perfect. He comes out with the Jerichoholic shirt, wins the IC title, or solidifies his reign as the IC champion. So I'm going to go with that. So I thought that was pretty neat. So Royal Rumble 2000, at No Way Out, which was the next pay-per-view, he would take on Kurt Angle. Now, Kurt Angle, again, also just came into the company. He actually debuted at Survivor Series 99, okay? So that's not too far off. Survivor Series was in November, so you have, in February, you have No Way Out. Kurt Angle's already the European champion, challenges Chris Jericho for the IC championship, and he wins. Kurt Angle becomes a Intercontinental Champion within months of his debut. I'm talking about a push, right? But Kurt Angle was very well deserving. I know this is a Jericho episode, and don't worry, Jericho. There you go for the Walls of Jericho, or the Lion Tamers. I like to call it. Bam, perfect, right in the middle, almost in the middle of the ring. Love it. I try to win as many matches as I can in this playthrough with the Lion Tamer, only because I love that move, one of my favorite moves of all time. Jericho started calling it the Walls of Jericho when he came to WWE. I don't know why. I don't know why he changed the name. Maybe because he also had to change how he did it. I'm diverging two different subjects. I was going to talk about Kurt Angle, and then I went back to Jericho and talking about completely different out. Let's go back to Jericho real quick. Wait, real quick. Actually, I thought that was funny. They say the 9th wonder of the world and Lita comes out, because this was obviously supposed to be Chyna coming out, because these storylines play around what was going on at the time. And Lita comes out because Chyna is the current IC champion. So I think that's funny. What I was going to say about Kurt Angle was it was very well deserved, his push, because out of all the debuts in that over the time of different wrestlers coming in, there's some that I really always remember. Jericho obviously had one of the most memorable debuts. Taz's debut really meant a lot to me. But Kurt Angle's debut always stood out to me because I didn't know who this guy was. They kept hyping him up. 1996 gold medal champion. They kept showing the vignettes, the promos of him talking. He seems very kind of like a dry personality. He comes out, looks like he's wearing the Olympic attire. He's wrestling Shawn Stasiak, and I never forget it because I'm watching the match, and then he gets on the mic and he's like, "You guys should be cheering me. You shouldn't be booing me. I'm an Olympic champion. And right then and there, I was like, oh, this guy is going to be good. This guy is going to be really good. Because I didn't expect that from him. I thought they were just going to come out. He was going to, flat, do some stuff, show his amateur wrestling, and then be done with it. But when he got on the mic, there was just something that happened there in that moment, and I never forgot that. And especially considering that'd be such a great year for Kurt Angle, and it wasn't long before he became world champion and have all these amazing matches, and his match with Shane McMahon at the King of the Ring. Oh man, so many moments. But yeah, so he definitely deserved that push to become Intercontinental Champion within months of debuting. But Jericho got a great push too. But Jericho, when his finisher in WCW was the Lion Tamer, and he was wrestling a lot of cruiserweights. So when he would do the Lion Tamer, he did it like how you see it done in this game. If you never watched old Jericho matches, okay, you never knew this, all right, youngins. But when he would do the Lion Tamer or the Walls of Jericho, he would come down on it with one knee. It was basically a modified Boston Crab. It hurts like hell. Because a Boston Crab is really supposed to just really work on like your legs and maybe like your lower back. Maybe if the guy is really big and really pulling back on it. But the way Jericho did it was he'd have you basically where like your upper chest and your neck was being driven into the mat because he's holding your legs at such an angle that your whole like midsection's exposed. And me and my friends used to put the Lion Tamer on each other all the time because that was just one of the best moves ever. And I'm telling you, it hurts like hell, especially if your arm is caught underneath. If you're able to get your arms out where you can do the whole crawl for the ropes, you're golden. It's not going to hurt as much. But if your arm is right under your chest, which is where it should be when you get someone in the Lion Tamer, oh man, it's so painful. It just hurts your whole midsection. And Jericho used to do it like that all the time in WCW. When he got to the WWE, he couldn't do that way as much, and it basically became just like a Boston Crab because everyone was a lot taller. He couldn't put The Rock or Stone Cold in the Lion Tamer because they were just too tall. So he had to, kind of work around it and just do like a Boston Crab. Or sometimes he would stand up teensy with the Boston Crab, but it was never the same. And I guess that's why he called it the Walls of Jericho. Quite recently, as in just 2 days ago, because I'm recording this, it's Monday, July 6th. So WWE had the Beast in the East special live from Tokyo, Japan. One of their house shows from Tokyo, Japan, where Brock Lesnar fought Kofi Kingston, and Finn Balor fought Kevin Owens. I always want to say Prince Devitt and Fergal Devitt, but I know I should start saying Finn Balor. Whatever, I don't care. I'll say Devitt. First time ever they recorded anything from Japan and actually are presenting it live, which was just mind-blowing to me that we finally reached that point. So if you have the WWE Network, go watch it. It's a really good special. I really enjoyed the matches that went on with it. And Jericho had said he was going to be there. He was tweeting about it. He was saying that he was going to return. This was going to be the summer of Jericho house shows. He's going to appear in a bunch of various house shows, and he was going to be part of the Japanese tour. On the first night, he was going to wrestle against Finn Balor, and on the second night, he didn't say who he was going to wrestle against. Obviously, he probably was going to lose the match against Finn Balor because Finn Balor is going to go on and face Kevin Owens. And if you've watched the event or haven't watched the event, whatever, you probably know it by now. Or you will know it come tonight anyway, watching Raw. And I probably won't put this up before Raw, but Finn Balor had beats Kevin Owens for the title. So you can't have Jericho beat Finn Balor. So anyway, they open up this special with Chris Jericho against Adrian Neville. I love Adrian Neville too. I think he's really good. Chris Jericho was on fire in this match. I mean, talk about... He's just legendary status these days, man. When he comes out, it's just, he's put in so many years. But he can still go, and I like that he wrestles a lot of younger wrestlers because you really see like the passing of the torch, a lot of the guys he wrestles. And Adrian Neville is definitely in that position I think that Jericho was in a long time ago, is that here's Adrian Neville, a smaller guy who is used to wrestling only other guys around his size, but now in order to elevate himself to the next level, he's in the WWE, and he's gonna eventually have to start wrestling these really big guys like Sheamus, guys like Ryback, guys like John Cena. He's gonna adapt. He's gonna have to change his style up and adapt, and that's what Jericho had to do. But Jericho and Neville have this match, and they love Jericho in Japan because Jericho's a legend in Japan, like he is anywhere. But if you haven't seen Jericho's work in Japan, go watch it. Early Jericho stuff. He called himself the Lionheart. It was great, fantastic stuff. He's in the J Cup tournament and all that jazz. Great work in Japan. He channels like the old school Lionheart in this match, man. He pulls out all the stops. Him and Neville have a great match. You don't know where it's gonna go. And when he does the ending of the match, he goes for the Walls of Jericho, right? And he goes for the Walls of Jericho, and Adrian Neville, he crawls to the ropes, and Jericho pulls him away from it. No, that's not how it ends. I'm sorry. That was just another part of the match when he went for the Walls of Jericho, and Neville got out of it. But Neville goes for the Red Arrow, and Jericho counters it. He puts him in the Walls of Jericho. Neville tries to get out of it, and then he pulls him back away from the ropes, and he sits down on it with the one knee, old school lion tamer, right on Neville. The crowd goes nuts, and he won the match. And I was losing my mind. This was the first match of the night. It was my favorite match actually of the whole event, even though I liked I really loved the Kevin Owens Finn Balor match. That was my match of the event. Go watch it just for that match. Old school Lionheart, old school Lion Tamer. I mean, it was such a good match, and you could tell Jericho was just channeling. He was in Japan. This might be his last time in Japan. This might be it. So he was pulling out all the stops, and it was great to see the Lion Tamer again, because I think even around this time when he was doing the Walls of Jericho differently, I think he just kind of stopped doing the Lion Tamer because he didn't want to create, he didn't want to make it noticeable that he was probably doing it only to smaller guys. He was doing the Lion Tamer with the one knee down, as opposed to like a modified Boston Crab. And he's explained this. He's explained like that's the reasoning behind it. But I also think that's why he didn't like switch it up, because like he could have very well done the Lion Tamer against guys like Eddie Guerrero, like who I'm facing in the ring right now. He could have done it like he did it before against guys like Guerrero, Benoit, but I guess he just didn't, just because he didn't want to create that disconnect to be like, oh, well, why is he doing it differently? So yeah, that's just a little thing about Jericho. I could make like dozens of videos about Jericho, because Jericho is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Definitely top 5 of favorite wrestlers of all time. Still one of my favorite wrestlers. I love watching him, and I still think he puts on great matches, and I love when he comes back and he does his thing. But this was a standout. This was a breakout year for him. If you didn't know who Jericho was around this time, now you would know. I mean, we all remember him coming out. And when The Rock was cutting a promo, he cuts a promo on The Rock. Very exciting stuff to see him put on that platform. I mean, he was honestly held back in WCW. This was a guy who fans were gravitating to in WCW because of his mic work, because of his in-ring work. But he was a cruiserweight who was trying to call out the big guys. He had that whole angle where he was calling out Goldberg, and people were into it. So it was nice to see WWE put him on that platform right when he comes out. He's calling out The Rock. Their time would come down the line, because he spent a lot of this year going after the IC title. So let's get back to it, because this is the IC Championship playthrough. I'm facing Eddie Guerrero, who also is involved with this Jericho IC title thing, because Eddie Guerrero, as you can see, he's got Chyna in his corner. That's all connected. It's all connected in this. So Jericho loses the title to Kurt Angle at No Way Out, and this leads to WrestleMania, the historic WrestleMania where, WrestleMania 2000, where Kurt Angle puts his Intercontinental title on the line. He puts both the European Championship on the line and the Intercontinental Championship on the line. Both are being defended simultaneously in this triple threat. You don't have to pin Kurt Angle to win the titles, and that's exactly what happens, because the first fall, is for the European Championship, and Chris Jericho wins that. And then the second fall is the IC Championship, and Benoit wins that. And Jericho pins Benoit, and Benoit pins Jericho. So, or beats Jericho, I should say, and Benoit beats Jericho, and Jericho beats Benoit. So Kurt Angle never gets pinned or submitted, and he loses both titles. The next night, Jericho loses his European Championship against Eddie Guerrero. And there I win with a single leg crab. I wasn't trying to win with that. I was trying to soften him up still for the Lion Tamer, but, you know, sometimes that happens. Sometimes I don't quite predict that they're going to tap out, and then they do, and it always surprises me. I thought Eddie Guerrero still had a little bit more fight left in him. So whatever, next time. So Jericho continues his hunt for the IC title. He's feuding with Benoit. And, you know, this leads to Jericho actually beating Benoit on an episode of SmackDown for the IC title. But he only holds it for like a week. And he loses the title back to Benoit on an episode of Raw. So Jericho bounces around for a little bit after that. Because, you know, after WrestleMania 2000, you know, what we had Backlash. And at Backlash, you know, Jericho actually had the cover photo for Backlash. I should mention, actually, something I didn't realize. But Jericho was originally supposed to be a part of the four-way dance for the world title at Backlash. I mean, not at Backlash, at WrestleMania 2000. He actually has a poster of him, The Rock, Big Show, and Triple H. That was supposed to be the actual main event. And then somewhere along the lines, that all got changed. And Jericho ends up fighting for the Intercontinental title, and Mick Foley ends up going for the world title. So they wanted to give Jericho that world title opportunity very quickly, but something happened. I guess they wanted to keep the whole Benoit, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, all those guys. I guess they wanted to keep them all wrestling each other because they were all delivering great matches. Maybe that was it. Who knows? Maybe it was other reasons. Who knows? But whatever. Jericho would get his due. So yeah, Backlash, you know, he loses to Chris Benoit, but then he would win the title for him on an episode of SmackDown, but then loses back to him on Raw. So then we go to Insurrection 2000. Jericho goes back now to try to get his European Championship that he lost to Eddie Guerrero, but he loses, so he doesn't get the championship from Guerrero back. And then this is basically like just the thing that starts happening for Jericho. At Judgment Day, he tries to get the IC title back from Benoit, loses to Benoit. King of the Ring 2000. Jericho was actually in the King of the Ring. He was my favorite for the King of the Ring, but he loses in the quarterfinals to the eventual winner of the King of the Ring, and that is Kurt Angle. So no-brainer there. But you're noticing a pattern. I hope you're noticing a pattern. A lot of Benoit, a lot of Guerrero, a lot of Kurt Angle. I mean, this was the year, man. All these matches were great. So if you got the WWE Network, man, this year, watch these matches. Anything Jericho. But this is it. This is in Fully Loaded. This is when Jericho starts moving on up to the big time, if you will. He takes on Triple H in a last man standing match. So this was a rivalry that was beginning to bubble because, you know, leading into the King of the Ring, because Jericho had kissed Stephanie McMahon. And that made Triple H angry. So they started feuding because of that. And that became a big deal. Because that would basically start the rivalry between Triple H and Jericho. So Jericho started to kind of interfere in a lot of Triple H's matches. But at SummerSlam, after losing to Triple H in the last man standing match, at SummerSlam, Chris Benoit and Jericho went at it again in a 2 out of 3 falls match. And Chris Benoit would beat Jericho. Another fantastic match between the two. You know, it's really sad. I know I talk about this a lot, but everyone talks about it a lot because we haven't really had closure from the WWE and stuff like that, and you just can't avoid it. Like this, if anything, this is the year where we're just gonna keep talking about it a lot. Like in the year meaning like November '99 and November 2000, because so much happened. But Jericho talks about it, I think, in his first book, where, oh, I like to talk about this such and such match I had with Benoit at the this pay-per-view, but according to the WWE, it doesn't exist anymore. And I'd like to talk about this match that I had with Benoit, but according to the WWE, it doesn't exist anymore. And you could sense the frustration from Jericho, especially at that time during that book, because they really were trying to completely erase Chris Benoit's contributions. And you can't talk about Jericho without talking about Benoit. You're talking about one of the best, in-ring rivalries of all time. When these guys got in the ring, it was beautiful. I mean, even going back to their work in Japan when Benoit was Pegasus Kid and stuff like that, and their few meetups in WCW, but in the WWE, you really saw how good Jericho and Benoit were in the ring together. And it's great that even though WWE on their current product, they still don't talk about Benoit. You can go on the WWE Network and watch all these great matches, and I really do recommend you watching. I mean, not just with Benoit, but Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle. I mean, Jericho was putting on some clinics with these guys, and it was like nothing for them. It almost felt like, because every pay-per-view when you saw who Jericho was fighting, you were like, oh yeah, this match is probably gonna be good. Even against a guy like X-Pac. Jericho took on X-Pac at Unforgiven. Again, still feuding with Triple H, but Triple H utilizing his lackeys to keep Jericho down. And this is great that I'm having Chris Jericho against Chyna right now for the IC title, because this is how it really goes down. And then we go to No Mercy 2000, the pay-per-view which this game is named after. So now Jericho and X-Pac are feuding, and I don't know, I think Jericho is clearly outclassing X-Pac, but they're keeping the feud going. Jericho defeats X-Pac in a steel cage match, and that puts us to Survivor Series 2000, and where we have Jericho going up against Kane. And Jericho loses to Kane. So that's Jericho. That's Jericho's year. Pretty good year. Keeps him in the spotlight for the most of it. But his time with the IC title doesn't end, and Jericho becomes world champion fairly quickly. But let's just quickly go through his other IC title victories, because this is the IC Championship. And, I won't really talk too much about him becoming the world champion, because, he becomes the world champion in 2001 when he basically wins the WWF Championship and the World Championship in the same night and becomes the first undisputed champion ever, which was crazy. They gave it to Chris Jericho. That's nuts. That blew my mind. I didn't think he was going to do it. I was, of course, rooting for him, but I was like, nah, they're going to give it to Austin or The Rock. And they gave it to Jericho. Because Jericho's the man. That's why. There I go. Lion Tamer. There it is. Classic Lion Tamer. See, the thing about... I guess I should talk about the gameplay a little bit, right? So, if you've watched my Jericho videos from WCW NW Revenge, that's his regular down leg special. I mean, submission hold. They didn't have specials for submissions in Revenge. They actually added that feature in No Mercy, right? Yeah, because they didn't add that feature in Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, right? I could be wrong. I might be wrong on that. I just combine all the games into one. So sometimes I forget which game was the first to add what. So forgive me if Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 had that feature. I want to say they didn't, but I could be wrong. I have been known to be wrong in the past. And if you call it out on the comments, I'll definitely, make sure to look it up and confirm it. But anyway, in Revenge, when you did the Lion Tamer, it was one of the few moves that when you did it, your special meter went up. Okay? So it was a great move to play in the game. Jericho is one of the best characters in that game as well because of that. But, you know, the upside to having it there, you can always put it on, right? So you can always put it on, so you can win the match almost whenever you want by just doing the Lion Tamer as much as possible. So when you have it in No Mercy, you can only do it when you have your special meter going. So that makes things a little bit more complicated, because now you got to make sure you work the guy, you work your opponent to a point so that when you finally do get your special meter, you can definitely make them tap out with the Lion Tamer. And this makes it a lot harder because you only have such a limited time, number one, with your special meter, okay? So you got to make sure you can get it off, but you got to make sure you also don't get a rope break. And you got to make sure they tap out, because it's going to be kind of hard for you to get it on a second time. It's not impossible. It's totally possible to get it on a second time, but you really want to make sure that the first time you do it, you get them to tap out. So at least with Jericho, he's got a lot of moves that work the lower body. I still don't really know if in this game, if the Lion Tamer is working out the lower body or if it's working out the legs, because I get mixed messages, and it just seems like if you work on either or, you're still setting yourself up to win with the Lion Tamer when you have it with the special. It does feel like, though, when you do these submission holds with your special meter on, they're a little bit stronger. So you don't usually, if you've worked your opponent long enough, you can win with the Lion Tamer as the special, usually. If you don't, chances are the second time you throw that Lion Tamer on when you have your special meter going, you'll win the match. So what I like to do a lot of the times is I like to work the guy's lower legs or, you know, lower body on the outside to risk them not tapping out, like I unfortunately made Eddie Guerrero tap out in the earlier match. But also because, you know, I don't want the match to end without the Lion Tamer. I like to win with the Lion Tamer because that's Jericho's finisher, and I want to win with Jericho's finisher. But here, so now I'm in a handicap match, so it's like, how am I going to win this handicap match? It's going to be much harder to make one tap out, you know, especially when I only have such a limited time to begin with to do it with the special meter, and doing submissions and handicaps in general are tough to pull off. So I'm just going to have to try to power through and just win this match as best as I can. Jericho's got that sweet double powerbomb, which is a great lead-in to the Lion Tamer special, but you're going to want to make sure when you do it that you do it in the middle of the ring, because the positioning could be kind of hard, because usually when you do the double powerbomb, it's going to set you up for the Lion Tamer, but it's always usually going to set you up for the Lion Tamer in a position that it's going to be easy for your opponent to get to the ropes and get a rope break, and you don't want that. You don't want the opponent getting a rope break. So at least with this game, which you couldn't do in Revenge, you can drag the opponent when you have them in the grapple. You can back grapple them and spin them around to a front grapple. And I lose this match. Why do I lose this match? I think I have to lose this match. I totally forgot. I should have explained at the beginning of the video that I have to lose this match. Yeah, this is the 5th match, right? This is chapter 5. That was chapter 5, right? Yeah, chapter 5. I have to lose chapter 5. I'm sorry. I totally forgot I was playing No Mercy, and since you're doing the championship paths, you have to lose different paths. So it doesn't even matter. Forget all my advice about having to win a handicap match, because you got to lose that handicap match. And I got to lose the next match too. Basically, yeah, that's why. I was wondering why I was watching me, and I was like, I'm just stalling out. Here I got to give Faarooq some of my money. I don't know why I got to give Faarooq some of my money. It's kind of lame. But yeah, so anyway, so Chris Jericho, he would win the title 2001. Once again, the IC title we're talking about against Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit once again is the IC championship because he doesn't hold it all the way from 2000. Chris Benoit actually would lose the title after beating Jericho on that episode of SmackDown to get the title back. Chris Benoit would lose the title in 2 weeks to Rikishi, and then he wouldn't get the title back until December of 2000. But in January of 2001, at the 2001 Royal Rumble, Chris Jericho defeats Chris Benoit in a ladder match. Again, another great match. Just watch it. Watch Jericho Benoit anytime you see it. Jericho would then lose the IC title to Triple H, which is very interesting. He would lose the title to Triple H. Triple H would lose the title to Jeff Hardy, blah, blah, blah. Back and forth, back and forth. Flash forward to 2002. Jericho would beat Rob Van Dam for the IC title, but he would only hold it for 14 days before losing it to Kane. Alright, so here we go. Flash forward to October 2003. So now we're going like a year each time Jericho gets the IC title, and he's only holding it for a few days. I don't know why that is. Maybe because he was also feuding for the world titles around these times. It was a very tricky situation. But Jericho would win the title for less than a day. He would beat Rob Van Dam in a ladder match, and then that very same night... no, that's wrong. He would... What happened that night? I'm trying to remember. That was the night that Jericho and Rob Van Dam fought, and Jericho won the title, but then something happened, and then Rob Van Dam ended up keeping the title. I'm going to have to look it up, because I totally forgot, and I didn't write it in my notes. But Jericho would win the title again in September of 2004. He defeated Christian in a ladder match. It was actually vacated because Edge was injured. So Jericho and Christian fought for it. And Jericho would win. Shelton Benjamin would beat Jericho at Taboo Tuesday. And Shelton Benjamin would hold the title for 244 days. One of the longer reigns that have been done in the past decade or so. He would hold it for 244 days. Jericho would not hold the title again until March of 2008. This is his 8th title reign. So his 7th title reign was in September of 2004. It wouldn't be until 2008 that Jericho would win the IC title. And this actually ends up being his longest title run. He holds the title for 111 days. So 8 years, pretty much, after he held the IC title the first time, he holds the title the longest time, 111 days. And he would lose the title to Kofi Kingston at Night of Champions. Hey, remember when Kofi Kingston was the IC title champion? I do. Then Jericho would win the title for the 9th and final time against Rey Mysterio Jr. at Extreme Rules in a no-holds-barred match. Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, and WWE. This is like, it's like it almost comes full circle because a lot of Chris Jericho's big accomplishments in WCW were against Rey Mysterio. He beats Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight Championship at one point. So, it's kind of interesting to see all that come full circle and have Jericho beat Rey Mysterio for the IC Championship. So yeah, those are basically Chris Jericho's Intercontinental Championship reigns. Legendary status, Chris Jericho. I mean, I don't even know where to keep going when it comes to Chris Jericho. I guess, if anything, really watch those Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit IC title matches. I mean, they were all good. I don't really have a favorite because they were all good. And the thing about Chris Jericho as a performer, I think the reason why I loved Chris Jericho so much as a performer is because I always felt like he was always trying to do something different with each of his opponents. He never really wrestled Chris Benoit the way he wrestled The Rock, the way he wrestled Kurt Angle, the way he wrestled Kofi Kingston. Like, Chris Jericho always switches it up. Even recently, this match that he wrestled Adrian Neville. the way he wrestled Adrian Neville wasn't how he was wrestling against Randy Orton when he had that little brief feud with Randy Orton before he left. Chris Jericho, I feel, is one of those wrestlers that really takes into account how he wrestles against the opponent. Like, that really matters to him. You know, he doesn't want to wrestle the same style against against different opponents. He wants to wrestle opponents differently, which makes sense. You know, if you look at like any real sport where guys are against competitively, they're not gonna play. If you watch an MMA fight, one guy is not gonna fight the same guy over and over again. The way he's fought other people, he's gonna always switch it up, and every time he has a new opponent, he's gonna face them differently. That's what I always loved about Chris Jericho's work in the ring. This match is very complicated to lose, by the way. So this match, we have to lose, meaning Faarooq and I, but it's a handicap match. So I got a chair in the ring because I'm trying to stop Faarooq, who's got a beast of a comeback special right now. But I can't look at him. I can't change my view to him, which means I can't do any grapples or striking moves really against him because my attention is locked onto Chyna. So I have to kind of do this run and hit thing. It's kind of tedious. I don't like these matches. I don't like the handicap matches that I have to lose because they're very hard. I like the referee matches where I have to make the other opponent win. Like there's a lot of referee matches you'll do in this game where I go for like a doomsday device kind of thing, thinking I'm gonna knock Faarooq, even though it's still focused on Chyna. But there's a lot of referee matches where you're asked to be the guest referee in the storyline. Like, let's say Chyna wants me to be the guest referee so that I secure her victory against Faarooq. But then you can open up a different path if you let Faarooq win. Now, the great thing about a referee match is that you can change your focus on the different person. This is because you have to change your focus on the different person so that you can do the submission and the pin counting as the ref. But it also helps for deciding on who you want to win the match. Handicap matches, not so much. So here I try to do little tricks. Like right there, I saw Faarooq was climbing the top rope, and I knew that if I picked Chyna up at the right moment, Faarooq would miss his high flying spot. When was the last time you ever saw Faarooq go high flying? I don't think I've ever seen him go high flying. But he went for it here. Here, as you can see right there, I saw that Chyna was dazed, and instead of letting Faarooq just get a strong grapple off on her, I put myself in between, missed the opportunity to break up his special there, but I figured if I pick Chyna up real fast, I was trying to weak grapple her so that I can throw her out of the ring to kill Faarooq's special meter, but to no avail. I finally get her out of the ring here. Faarooq is just like on top of it. He's like, nope, we gotta finish her, Jericho. And I'm like, come on, dude, we're supposed to lose this match. He's going for the Doomsday device again. I don't know why. He's really into it. He really wants me to go up top. It's what the fans want. Chyna's got a comeback special here. As you can see, she's going to go for the Boston Crab, and her meter is going up. Again, I've talked about this in the past. That's how you know when someone has a comeback special, is when they do moves that normally don't raise their meter up. And then all of a sudden, it starts raising it and starts raising it really fast. I try to get into Chyna's face without hitting her so that she can hit me and maybe, build her meter up even more. But she's too busy taunting at Faarooq, who's lying on the outside. I whiff on that chair. And I try to hit Faarooq. There I go. I get in between Faarooq again. But again, Chyna's reflexes are just so slow. This is what's very tedious about the handicap matches that you have to lose, is that you gotta do all these little tricks and schemes to kind of win. I wish they had DQ on. I believe there are some handicap matches. I could be wrong, but I believe there are some handicap matches that you play where there's DQ on. So all I would do is run and get a weapon and then just cause a DQ by using the weapon against the opponent. I love those matches. I love those matches that have DQ on, that you have to lose, because it's so easy. You don't have to do this little game where you gotta like try to position yourself in the best places so that you're hitting your teammate as opposed to your opponent. It could be kind of frustrating. But yeah, alright, so while this is going on, Chyna's finally got her special. She's hopefully going to finally put this match away. Yeah, it's going to be a very sad day when Chris Jericho retires. Again, like I said 1,000 times, and I'll keep saying it 1,000 times, he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I loved his style, loved his mic work. A lot of his matches are some of my most favorite and memorable matches. I think that the next time Jericho comes back to the WWE, because he's wrestling the house shows, and he has a podcast, and I highly recommend listening to his podcast, where he talks about that he loves doing the house shows and the live events because he just gets to wrestle. And that's what he wants to do right now. He just wants to wrestle. He doesn't want to do the Raws and the SmackDowns because you don't really get to wrestle. And it's true, and it's sad. It's sad that on a 3-hour Raw, they can't fit more than a half hour of wrestling, okay? They barely can sometimes do 20 minutes of wrestling across like 8 matches, and you got freaking 3 hours. That's what made Nitro so exciting back in the day, was that you knew you were going to get a lot of great wrestling matches because they're the cruiserweight division, because they will let those guys wrestle for 15-20 minutes. I don't know why they still don't do that. That opener that Adrian Neville and Chris Jericho had was perfect. It was like a good 15-minute 12-minute opener. I didn't really keep track of it. It probably might have been longer. It felt longer, but it was a great way to get the crowd going, and it's nice to see that Jericho still has that in him. I say, since Daniel Bryan's out, right? He's never coming back. Let's be real. Sadly, I want him to come back, but unfortunately, I'd rather have him healthy and living than breaking his neck in the ring. I say bring Jericho back and have Jericho win the IC title one more time, and do what like kind of John Cena's doing, like this whole open challenge thing. And kind of have it be, if anything, I would like that to be Jericho's farewell tour. I mean, Jericho's probably not ready to hang up the boots, and he shouldn't. His match with Adrian Neville, if anything, proves that he still has a lot left in the tank. But I think it would be so cool if Jericho comes back, wins the IC title from whoever has it, and this is like his kind of like farewell run. And it builds up all the way to like whatever WrestleMania that is that year. And he puts someone over, maybe Sami Zayn or something like that, another Canadian, and he just basically has great stellar matches with everyone. And he's like, I'm Chris Jericho. I am a 10-time, because by that time he'd be 10-time. I am a 10-time Intercontinental Champion. I am the first ever undisputed champion. Multiple time World Heavyweight Champion, WWE Champion, Tag Team Champion. I mean, he's done it all. Cruiserweight Champion, TV Title Champion. I think it'd be fantastic to see him go up against all these guys we got coming up. I wish they aired that Finn Balor Chris Jericho match. From what I hear, it was great. And why wouldn't it be? Chris Jericho and Finn Balor. I mean, these are guys. If you look at a lot of guys coming up now, I think you really get a sense that a lot of these guys were the guys who were watching someone like Chris Jericho, which is nuts. Like even like someone like me, like I still remember vividly watching Chris Jericho in WCW as a kid and loving him. And here I am, flash forward almost 20, not 20 years later, but close to 20 years later, yeah. And Jericho's still kicking and kicking butt. And still doing his lion salts and his, running face smashes and his lion tamers and his come on babies. And it's amazing to say that I've been there the whole time, that Jericho's been around practically. I mean, obviously I didn't see his early indie stuff, but I've watched a lot of his classic, Japanese matches and even some of his rare territory matches. And a lot of the guys that are coming up now, the Sami Zayns, the Adrian Nevilles, the Kevin Owens, these were the guys who were also watching it around my time, but then they went on and became wrestlers. I went on and created a YouTube channel about 15-year-old wrestling games. So there's some things in common there. But in a way, those are like my contemporaries, you know? Like, if I was a wrestler right now, I'd be with that group. I mean, not to say I would probably be as popular or as famous as them, but those would be my contemporaries. They're around the same age as I am. So we've all been influenced by Chris Jericho, is what I'm saying. And you see that. You see that with Sami Zayn, Adrian Neville, Prince Devitt, Kevin Owens. These are guys who don't have your traditional body type. These are guys who aren't your, 6'5" type wrestlers or whatever. They're not your John Cena's. They're not your Roman Reigns. And I think because of the path that Chris Jericho paved, they wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Because Jericho broke those boundaries, just like Shawn Michaels did. And Jericho was influenced heavily by Shawn Michaels. And they had a fantastic feud. What year was that? But that, like, 2006 feud, I think, with Jericho and Shawn Michaels. Oh my, that was past meeting present. You know what I mean? That was, hey, you influenced me, but now I'm at the level where you're at, and we're gonna go. And I think that's the position Jericho is in right now. And I think that's where WWE should continue to take him, is that they should continue putting him in that position where he's helping elevate these guys who idolized him growing up. So you can see the clash of styles. So you can see the style that Jericho innovated and how it's transformed and evolved over the years. I would love to see that. And I think it would help the Intercontinental Championship get some of that prestige back. We have no real association right now with past Intercontinental Championship holders that can give it that sort of prestige. It would have been great to see what Daniel Bryan did with it, because Daniel Bryan was never the IC champion, but he should have been at one point. But he kind of had like the IC champion's journey without winning the IC championship. He went straight to the world championship. A few guys did that. I think Jericho would be our association with the prestige that has disappeared from the IC championship by giving the title back to him so that he could help elevate the newer generation. See, that's what's interesting about John Cena's U.S. heavyweight title. When John Cena first won the U.S. heavyweight title at WrestleMania 20 at Madison Square Garden against The Big Show, it was a big moment. People were ready for it. People wanted John Cena. Shockingly, you wouldn't know that by today from his reactions that he gets. But back then, if you go on the network and watch WrestleMania 20, where Benoit wins the world title, watch WrestleMania 20 and watch the John Cena Big Show match. Watch the reaction at MSG for when John Cena comes out. They were ready for it. They wanted this guy to win. They were in love with John Cena back then. Somewhere along the lines, it all changed. We all know that. But there is some sort of historical significance there for John Cena winning the U.S. heavyweight title now and defending it against the younger guys now. Because when John Cena had the U.S. heavyweight title back then, it meant something still. It didn't mean anything before, somewhere along the lines, up until John Cena started holding it again. And now when you have someone like Kevin Owens feuding with him, and quite possibly might even taking it away from him, it's going to help elevate it even further. And I think that's what they need to do. And since Daniel Bryan's hurt, I think Chris Jericho would be the best man for the job. Jericho, if you're listening to this, which I doubt, but someone should tweet at Jericho my ideas, or maybe I should tweet at him. But he's comfortable right now. He's chilling. He's touring with Fozzy, and he's doing his live events, and that's great. I saw him for the first time ever live. All these years of following Chris Jericho, I never got to see him live, and I finally got to see him live recently. He did a house show over here in Buffalo, and it was just great to see him live and in person, like, finally. Because when I watch Chris Jericho, I'm not only watching the Chris Jericho match of the now, of the present and what's in front of me, but I'm watching the Chris Jericho that I grew up with since WCW. I'm watching the the Japanese, Super J Cup Chris Jericho. I'm watching Cruiserweight Chris Jericho. I'm watching TV title Chris Jericho. I'm watching, entering the Attitude Era Chris Jericho. It's fascinating stuff. It really is. And this match is very interesting because this is the match that they did have. There was a match between Jericho, Chyna, and Kurt Angle at one point. There was a triple threat match. And then eventually there would be the Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle, and Chyna match, three-way dance. But this match occurred too, Jericho, Chyna, and Kurt Angle. Triple threat matches aren't that hard in this game. You just gotta watch out for comeback specials and try to build the momentum. But again, I just always have this desire that I want to win the matches with the Lion Tamer, and it's tough when you can only do it with your finisher. There I go for a diving splash, and Chyna should break it, but she doesn't, so she loses. That's what you get, Chyna. Chyna should have broken that, but she didn't. I don't know why. I don't know why she just stopped. It was very weird. Again, another victory I wasn't planning on getting, but I got it anyway. And whatever, you get what you can. I don't want to be here all day and trying to get the perfect victory. I'll never get these videos done if that was the case. I mean, it's great to try to be flashy, and I try to be as entertaining as possible when I do these matches. But also, at the same time, it's like I don't want every match to draw out 10 minutes just so I could win a certain way or, do a certain spot. I know that down the line, I'll eventually get to do the spot I want to do in these matches. So here we go. My favorite match type in the game, four-way dance, and almost a mirror of the last match I did with Chyna. In that video, it was Chyna, Kurt Angle, Benoit, and Guerrero, right? Yeah, I think so. Or was it Jericho? It was Jericho in that one. Damn, I don't even remember, and I just watched it like 10 minutes ago. Basically, gonna have Kurt Angle come out, and I think Benoit comes out. And yeah, what a fantastic year! Just to see all these people come out. Oh no, Guerrero comes out. Yeah, so it probably was Guerrero in the last one. So basically, Benoit is not in this one, because I believe Guerrero was in the last one also. You'll probably see a lot of this. I don't remember much else from the championship paths coming up, like what matches get done whatsoever, because again, this is like years ago that I did these championship paths. But I love doing the Fatal 4-Ways. I really do. When I used to play these games and I would have everything unlocked, I would just do Fatal 4-Ways. I would just do 4-way dance, either with random opponents, or I would choose them, and I would use that. If I was being really gutsy, I would do like battle royals and see how far I can get, where you can only pin, submit, or TKO. I should do that. I should see if I could do like a gauntlet style. Maybe I'll start slow. Maybe I'll do like an 8-man battle royal where you can only pin, submission, or count, or TKO. Or maybe not even TKO, because I don't like winning by TKOs. I like winning by just pins or submissions. Because sometimes you get a TKO when you don't want it, and sometimes you get TKO'd when you don't want to. So, but yeah, that'd be a cool idea. I think I should do that. I think I should do down the line, like I used to do as a kid, because I used to see how far I get. I don't think I've ever gotten like the full 30, because you're just so worn out by then, and it takes forever. It takes forever to really, because when you got a new person coming in to start from scratch to try to defeat them, it takes a while, man. It takes a while, even if you got a lot of momentum going. But especially if you get one of those computer opponents who runs in and they just want to counter everything you do, it gets pretty hard. But see, you have the counter there, the four-man counter, because you can add more. You can do basically a battle royal and just have like the fatal 4-way rules. So I'll probably do that. I'll probably do a bunch of fatal 4-way videos, but like I'll keep adding up and see how much I can do. If I can do a fatal 4-way, for 4 or 8 or 12, 16, because it goes up by 4, and the most you can go up is 40. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, in survival mode, you can win pin submission in that as well, but it also has the Royal Rumble rules, so if you get knocked out of the ring. So I don't really recommend trying to go through survival mode, winning against every opponent by pin and submission, because if you do that, A, you're gonna be there forever, and B, you're not gonna do it. I'd be so impressed. First of all, I think it's impossible, but I'd be so impressed if someone could win the survival mode just based off of pins. Theoretically, that's the best way you want to do it, with the exception of trying to eliminate all 100, because if you eliminate all 100, you get $1 million bonus, which for a long time I thought wasn't true, but it is. And I'm going to try to do that and hopefully have a video of that, of me actually getting it. I did a live stream the other day and I eliminated 97 people on my own. 3 people I didn't get to eliminate, but I eliminated 97, so I was close. I was just 3 off. I was also playing on like beginner difficulty. Oh no, I wasn't playing on beginner. I was playing on easy. Should have played on beginner, and then I probably would have gotten all 100, and I could have gotten the easy 1 million. I'll probably do it the next time. Just do the easy beginner. Just do the beginner difficulty, because I just want to knock it out of the way, because survival mode takes so long. But yeah, when you eliminate someone in survival mode, you get a certain amount of cash, and the most profitable way to do it is to eliminate by pinfall. You get the most amount of cash by eliminating people from pinfall. So theoretically, you want to eliminate everyone by pinfall so you can get the most amount of money if you're not trying to eliminate all 100 people in a row, because that in itself is a Herculean task. So yeah, I don't know. I still wouldn't recommend it. But I'll probably do 4-way dances nonstop, elimination style matches. Those would be pretty cool. So Chyna's got a special. She's going to go for the jackknife powerbomb. Hasn't honestly worked on me enough to make this really matter. And that should be rope break, but it's not. I feel like Rick Steiner over here. If anyone's seen my Ultimate Dragon TV title defense run, they'll get that joke. I'm already trying to start inside jokes with my videos so that people could check out my other videos. So yeah, but Jericho, I kind of want to revisit Jericho, like, maybe with like another IC title kind of run, where maybe I highlight my top favorite matches. I've also decided, I think the way I'm going to do that, because I like to throw out recommendations when I do these videos. Obviously, if you have the network, I like to say, yeah, watch Jericho and Chris Benoit 2 out of 3 falls match. Watch it. It's great. Basically, I'd say watch any Jericho match from any pay-per-view that year, with the exception of the Kane and X-Pac matches. But watch all the other matches for Jericho. And watch anything you can with Jericho. But I really should do like my top 10 favorite matches with Jericho. Or at least, I can't really do that because like, I know there's going to be some matches he's had with certain people that I can't put in this game because I can't make the characters or they're not in the game. So maybe I'll do like a top matches with Jericho that I like, that I can recreate in this game. Maybe I'll do that, because I could talk about Jericho for days, and I don't want to talk too much about his World Heavyweight Championship, because I do want to do a video. I want to do a video down the line about him winning the Undisputed Championship, and I actually wanted to do the video based about the first Undisputed Championship tournament, because A, it's really cool, and you can actually do the full Undisputed Championship. It was at Vengeance. I was just blanking at the what the match was. It was basically, so it was only 4 matches. It was Stone Cold against Kurt Angle, and Chris Jericho against The Rock. And Stone Cold beat Kurt Angle, and Chris Jericho beat The Rock. And by doing that, he became the world champion, and Stone Cold was already the WWF champion. So Jericho beat The Rock for the world championship. So Jericho goes in, and he beats Stone Cold Steve Austin for the undisputed title. This happened in 2001. In December of 2001. And, you know, I always say, like, that would have been right around the time, probably in November of 2001, where we would have gotten the sequel to WWF No Mercy. And they were working on the sequel, and it was going to be Backlash. But it got scrapped for whatever reason, and we never got it. And it would have been so great because we would have got all the WCW people in it, and it would have just been probably the best wrestling game ever. But, oh well. We never got it. It would have had one of the best rosters ever. It really would have. And in this engine, it would have been great. But I want to do that. I want to do like a little undisputed kind of championship. I want to do like famous matches. Maybe recreate all the Benoit Jericho matches because they're all good. You know, the Eddie Guerrero Jericho matches and stuff like that. Kurt Angle. And I did in my WrestleMania 2000 Memories video, I did the triple threat. Jericho, Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, but you can't do triple threat rules like how they did that Intercontinental match. Excuse me, forgive me. My throat's getting a little dry. That would have been a really neat feature if you could do that the way they did that match. I mean, there should have been enough time for them to program it, right? Or maybe it's just since that was the only match I could really think of where they did that. I might be mistaken. There might be another triple threat match, and you could definitely remind me in the comments if I'm wrong about this. But that's the only match I can remember where two titles were on the line, back to back in a triple threat match. And it would have been really neat to have that option available in No Mercy. They also don't have a 2 out of 3 falls option, which is kind of lame. None of the games ever had a 2 out of 3 falls option, and that didn't really dawn on me until recently when I was playing WWE 2K15, and you could do a 2 out of 3 falls match, and I'm like, could I ever do a 2 out of 3 falls match in any of the A.P.A developed games? No, I couldn't, and I got really bummed about it, but not really, because it's not a big deal. But it would be really nice to do a 2 out of 3 falls. I mean, technically, you have your Iron Man matches here, which are like however many falls out of however many falls, but it would have been nice to do a 2 out of 3 falls kind of scenario. And then you could have had like the triple threat 2 out of 3 falls and put both titles on the line. I'm wondering if I could do that in WWE 2K15, because if I could do that in 2K15 or in the other 2K games, I could probably do the Benoit, Kurt Angle, Jericho. I would just have to make Benoit and Kurt Angle and Jericho, because I don't think he's in all of them. That's a lot more work, but here we go. I got my special. Chyna's in really good position. She might go backwards, which will screw me up if she does, unless she taps right away, because at least in No Mercy, sometimes they can tap right away. Like, I really appreciate that, you know. You don't have to do this whole song and dance, but it looks like she's going to burn my special out, which is a bummer. I don't remember what I decide to do, if I decide to keep working my way up to finish her off with the Lion Tamer. But this is like the perfect case scenario you want, right? This is, you know, Chyna came into this championship path as champion, took it away from her, but now we're back and forth about it. We have this fatal 4-way, and you know, it's down to us two. Like, this is like best case scenario, right? You want Jericho and Chyna to be going up against each other for the championship at the end of it all. That's what all the hard work is for. Chyna's looking a little weak there, looking like if I slapped on the Lion Tamer, she would tap out. But she's got a comeback special now, so I got to be very careful here. I love that jumping, spinning back kick. That's one of the best moves in the game. It really is. So good. It's so good that I didn't put it on my character when I created him back in the day. There's just some moves that I feel like are too good, and if you play against other people, I don't know, like, you could really create a really cheesy wrestler to play against people, and that's usually what a lot of the times I notice a lot of my friends would do. They would have like the Jericho spinning back kick and the Stone Cold punch and, you know, the spear, and Like all these moves that are really quick to pull off, so it's really hard to counter them because you don't really know when they're coming at you. So I would avoid it. I had the other spinning back kick for my created wrestler where I like the full extension on it. Bam, look at that moonsault. That moonsault looked vicious. Even though I know Chyna's pretty ready much to tap out, I still want to be extra cautious. You can never be too, you know, too ready to what's the word I'm looking for? It's not, I'm saying the sentence all wrong. You can never be too prepared to make sure that your opponent is going to tap out when you hit them with your special. Because again, once that special goes away, you got to wait to build your meter all the way back up, and you don't want to spend all that time doing that. Look how long it's been already since the last time I had a special to try to get my momentum going so that I could put Chyna away with the Lion Tamer, because I want to end it with the Lion Tamer. I know how I said earlier I don't like to try to spend a lot of time ending matches the perfect way, but like, come on, it's Chris Jericho here. I gotta end it with the Lion Tamer. Bam, running stomp. So when you regular stomp on someone, this is a little quick tip. When you regular stomp on someone, your meter doesn't go up, but if you do a running ground attack move, your meter does. That's a great little way to build up your meter, because a lot of times you'll probably find yourself in a position where I should have went for a running grapple there, because the running grapple would have been countered. A lot of the times you'll find yourself in the position where your meter will be red, but it won't be quite at the blinking red, and your opponent would be down. So instead of wasting time and picking them up and trying to do a grapple move on them, instead I suggest just doing a running ground attack move, because then that'll instantly jump your meter to the special where it needs to be. Here I go, I'm taking the offense to the outside, trying to taunt, trying to build my special meter up, because I'm anxious to put Chyna away. Chyna going for the grapple there. See, again, like I mentioned this in my Ultimate Dragon video, I believe, where I was talking a lot about the gameplay. When your opponent's groggy, that doesn't necessarily always guarantee you an easy move to do on them. Really, what you want to do, especially in No Mercy, is you want to do the running back grapple when your opponent's groggy, because if you go for a grapple, they can still counter it. Especially they can slap your hands away if you're going for a front grapple. If you go for a back grapple, you can definitely grab them, but they can still counter it. If you go for a flying move, if they're really good at the timing, they can still counter it as well, even if they're in the groggy state. So really what you want to try to do is try to do a running back grapple if you want to get an easy meter build. But if you want to go for like the flashiness, then hey, do whatever you want. So here I'm in a tough position because I got my special meter. So what I want to do is I want to go for a weak grapple, drop kick her there, because I know if I go for the sitting up finisher, it probably won't be the Lion Tamer. But here she goes, taps out right away. Thank you, No Mercy engine, for fixing that, because if they're ready to tap, they're ready to tap. And a perfect ending, I say, to this Chris Jericho IC Championship run. I really enjoy that. I hope you really enjoy that. I never get tired of playing as Chris Jericho. Definitely one of my favorite characters to play as in WWF No Mercy, despite not having easy access to the Lion Tamer. But I love his moveset. He's got a lot of great moves. And he's also just one of my favorite wrestlers, so it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of a little bit of a biased opinion, I'm not going to lie. But hey, everyone's got their favorites. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is just part 2 of the IC Championship path. I have so many more videos to come. This is the second longest championship mode of all the championship modes in No Mercy. But I hope you liked it. Hit the like button if you did. Subscribe so you would know when my next video is coming up. Leave comments and feedback. I read it all. I try to answer them all. And I will see you next time. So until then, keep watching wrestling.